Vilakazi, who is the Deputy President of the National Union of Mine Workers. Catherine Mayberg is Director of the documentary Dying for Gold. So just before we went on the break, we're talking about illegal miners and conditions in mining generally. Mr. Vilakazi, I was asking, so do criminal syndicates then come in and fill the void where mining companies have failed communities?
It's a piece of true that. This thing started in gold. I remember the first time when I was coming in as a leader, I was warned in one of the regions not to condemn illegal mining, because even in the mass meetings of the union, you find that those people are there. Then I wondered what's going on here. I remember one of the former general secretaries showing us how people takes food down underground to feed those who cannot come out doing illegal mining. Mining environment in itself is hostile, in the sense that everything that we, especially from the oxygen we inhale, is artificial. The water that we use underground, it looks like water, but it has a lot of chemicals. Even if you can look at the legs of those who are using gumboots underground, including their hands, they have changed condition. The issue of silicosis and many of the diseases as a result of mine is because mining bosses, they don't care. They only use health and safety for compliance. They really don't give an hour for that. All they do is to say, you go in, you do as we expect. When you try to be safety conscious, like Kathy said, in 10 years' time we may not talk silicosis again. But the question is, what will then replace the cause of silicosis? South Africa today, as we sit here, is in the highest number of the unemployment. This is as a result of other businesses no more functioning. That is why people goes back to the mothballed mines and try their luck. And all of those west of the moat, they are not regulated to be in the country.
Before I want to get to Ms. Mayberg in just a moment about the conditions that you found, but very quickly, I want to ask this question directly, and I'd like to get a direct answer. Just how far up the food chain are those kingpins? Are they very influential people in our society?
You see, in the communities, it might happen that during the day you see a priest. Come evening, you find a different animal. Very influential, very resourced. Remember, if you are hungry, there is no rule that you can put. But if somebody can say to hungry people, sit here, when you come here, you will find me having food for you. What do you think between you and him will be listened to?
Ms. Mayberg, just perhaps tell us about when filming. Where did you go, and did you, I know some of the people that you spoke to weren't necessarily legal miners, but did you encounter word of or incidents thereof?
Sure. I mean, we were interviewing people right across the subcontinent, so the obvious places of Welkom and Carltonville, and then Eastern Cape, Lesotho, Swaziland, Mozambique. And throughout we encountered people who spoke on the side about what was happening. And yeah, I mean, you'd hear there's a village next door that they've just had a funeral for 12 people who've died and who were illegal miners, Zamazamas. So it is a constant, it's constantly in the background, because lots of money is to be made also, as he points out, for illegal miners or legal miners who go down with water or other things. And it's affected the industry in the way that so-called legal miners are going down. They are limited as to how much they can take down with them. So if they're taking 2 sandwiches, I'm just saying arbitrary, like they're taking, you're going down for many hours underground, you're only allowed to take so much with you. You're doing very hard labor down there.
Most of these people, who are they? Are they, because there's a sense that some of them are undocumented laborers. You know, some of them are foreigners, some of them are migrants who are just here quickly to make whatever's necessary to feed their families back home. So who are most of these people? Profile?
I'm not sure exactly, I can't comment on that, but what I can say is that we do know that a lot of them are ex-miners who know those shafts and those tunnels really well, because they are very complex systems. So it's not just somebody who buys an industry card and goes underground. It's somebody who knows a little bit more.
Who would have perhaps done that before. So, Mr. Vilakazi, I think last year already, government had said that they were implementing legislation that will ensure that they convert Zamazamas into artisanal mine operators or artisanal miners. Is that going to bring an end to the problem, or is it far more complex than that?
So, South Africa is a hub of Africa, and majority of the and I don't want to use the word foreign nationals. Majority of the comrades from the neighboring countries were legal in South Africa before, through a process of TEBA, and those processes, when democracy grown, some of the system fainted. As she says, obvious, if you are a Mozambican but there's a family in South Africa, the first point will be to visit the family. But finally you'll find yourself in the mine, because the first thing that brought them into South Africa is mining. That particular regulation cannot assist, like she's saying. Ex-mine workers find it easy to formulate a group of people who are from these neighboring countries and say, no, it's long that I've been in South Africa. Come here, let's go to Shaft Acts. And he shows them what to do. The only question that I'm sitting here asking is that, where and who are those people who buys
but
the
that's
raw?
What I was going to point out, that surely that points to international or external recipients to the proceeds of this crime or the commodity itself, because it's an international phenomenon, illegal mining. There are therefore foreign players.
From where I'm coming, there's been this phenomenon of selling chrome. We never knew that chrome can be that in demand. For a number of cases that I represented as a shop steward, I've been asking quite a number of questions, and I was so shocked to hear some of the evidence.
Which was?
To say, how can people allow a process of the whole truck leaving a plant full of chrome but being sold illegally? I'm supporting the fact that even international people are part of the scam. But all what I can say as a leader of the working people in construction, energy and mining is to say, we need to look into our democratic system. There are quite a number of things that we need to double check and reframe, because I can make a quotation from one of our leaders, the late Tambo, who said, it's not everything from the enemy that is wrong. The only thing that you need to do is not to repeat the mistakes that your enemy did. Our system and our democracy is open to the extent that we can't even know who is where, when, and for what. If all these big boys in the mining industry can be taken to book and say, rehabilitate all your shafts, all your pits, make sure that you take them back to normal so that the soil can be used for food production. Secondly, the industry needs to be regulated to the extent there is no need to retrench people on the basis that you feel to extract and transport the ore 4 k's down is expensive, then you need something on surface. That must come to an end, because that's where we want to introduce the new boys in the game and say, go there, do mining in a small scale, safe and productive.
Do you at some point, Ms. Mayberg, touch on that, what changes could be made for sustainable small-scale mining, or even just how to improve the basic working conditions of miners who are doing such dangerous work?
Look, I mean, if I have to be honest, I wouldn't send humans down there, to be honest. I mean, I really would not, if I was to take that responsibility. Long term, obviously South Africa's economy is largely based on mining. The huge damage that it causes right across the subcontinent is unacceptable. So our film is about opening those debates, opening up those discussions, revealing all of this that is unknown, all of this that is ignored, all of these deaths that happen year after year after year.
What is the most ignored point that you think is pivotal to people understanding the plight of miners?
Well, we have a system of modern slavery. We are paying people very little money to come and work in our country, build our country, whilst all the manpower is being withdrawn out of their communities, and they are suffering. So not only after decades of not building community, the only way they can survive is to come back as a Zamazama perhaps, or work on a mine for a very low wage, or whatever. But that whole system is wrong. We need to discuss that. We need to open up those discussions.
Mr. Vilakazi, one of the discussions that's been opened up in the country and in Parliament is the issue of land rights. And I know that there's a very close relationship between the current conditions in the mining industry and land rights. Where do you foresee the conversation going in improving the plight of miners?
It's not going to be easy, because there are generations after generations in as far as the land issue is concerned. I might be the 7th generation in the Vilakazi clan, but staying somewhere else, and somebody comes and show me a particular piece of land 100 to 1,000 k's away from where I am, and I find people there. Remember, there are 3 legs in as far as our land claim is concerned. They talk about the interested, the affected, and those who are in use. The question here comes, before our democracy, Anglo-American bought quite a number of farms in South Africa. Some of those who wanted to use those farms had to buy from Anglo-American. Then you ask yourself a question, where did Anglo-American inherit the land? Because from the geoscience and other parts that shows that there were people here before, they all come and say, no, my grandfathers were here and I belong here.
All right, just a quick and final one. Ms. Mayberg, where can people see your film?
So we're going to be on at the Rapid Lion Film Festival on Saturday night at 8:30, and then on the 8th at 10:30.
Thank you so much to you both. Philip Vilakazi, Deputy President of the National Union of Mine Workers, and Catherine Mayberg is with the film producers, one of the main producers there on the film. Thank you very much for joining us. That is On the Record this evening.